Welcome back.
Thank you.
What was the biggest takeaway that you had watching from a distance about where your team is?
The improvement, just a big step forward that our team took in the Bahamas. I know, there were some roller coaster rides, throughout the few weeks, um, that the coach Mike and the staff had to deal with, and I thought their messaging was received really well. Our team improved greatly in some areas that were really deficient, early on. We still got a ways to go, but that was probably my biggest takeaway, the improvement our team made.
Chris, what was the whole experience like for you watching your team but having to do it from a distance?
It was weird. It's not so much, obviously the experience of watching your team on television is very strange, but then just not really having much feel outside of watching a press conference or see maybe a play or two develop in the next game, of knowing really what's taking place in the locker room and on the practice court. That was the part maybe I don't want to say think about, but really feel the feelings I would have as it played out. That was really strange.
What was your approach to kind of get reacclimated to the team dynamic of all the little intricacies that you may have missed as they went through the first 6 games?
Yeah, we had a staff meeting on Sunday, and that lasted a few hours, 3 or 4 hours on Sunday evening, just to sort of get acclimated with our personnel, actions that we put in, stumbling blocks throughout the 3 weeks, things they thought our guys improved in, recruiting, you name it. And then on Monday, yesterday, took about 15 minutes a player, and just sort of from 8:30 on, met with each guy individually leading up to practice. And then, I spent Sunday night, once I finished with the staff, preparing practice, looking over Mike's practice plans from the previous 20 days or so, and try to formulate what our team had been doing, and also understanding what our team needs to do against Michigan State, who I felt, I've got a pretty good feel, probably a better feel than I normally have as a head coach going in the game, because I've watched every minute they've played and did the scout myself.
What's it like when you're watching a game at home and there are some key late game situations like Furman and Detroit, where it comes down to, calling a play where, obviously you'd have been right in the middle of it, and you're completely.
Yeah, that's not the part that puts you on edge. It's just the execution of whatever's being run. Certainly there's some things that, Mike would do differently, that I would do differently than Ross or Cahill or any coach. You're just going to sort of have your own spin on things. But the execution, the ability to catch a pass, to catch it where you need to in order to enter it, all those little things that you're watching, whether it's the first play of the game or the last play of the game, to be honest.
Chris, you said you had a lot of confidence in Mike and what he could do, in the entire staff, but what can you say about just the job he did while you were away? And, they did have success and, won in the Bahamas.
Yeah, Mike did an amazing job, to step in as a substitute teacher, which is basically what he is. And obviously he doesn't go away once I come back. He's had a voice for a long time with me, alongside me, which is what gave me the confidence to make him the head coach. But being able to, have your own voice, your own belief that mirrors how we do things as a program, I think he did an incredible job. I don't want to lose Mike, but I think that gives him a ton of evidence to athletic directors around the country that, like, hey, this dude, took on a team that hadn't played a regular season game. It wasn't one game. It was, nearly a month, and he goes 5-1 and wins a Thanksgiving tournament against some really good coaches. Ben Howland's been to Final Fours. Mark Turgeon has won a Big Ten championship. Mike did it with, again, not a veteran crew that's been together for years. We have 8 newcomers, I believe.
How well were you able to anticipate what plays he would call in various situations?
Early on, a lot, but as the games went on, Coach Ross started to add things left and right. So my play sheet went from about 10, 15 plays to about 35 plays overnight. So one of my first things when I came in was like, slow down, big fella, slow down.
When you left, there was an urgency to try to install as much as possible. What you left, how different is that, or how does that differ from your expectations to what you have now?
We knew we weren't going to cover every scenario. Leading up to game one, it was a shame that we didn't have maybe tougher challenges in the exhibition games. Not that you want it to come down to last possession, but I think our team learned a lot in the Furman loss. I think it learned a lot in the Detroit win. Because when you're in those moments, a mistake on either end of the floor, not getting open at the proper time, fouling a three-point shooter, things like that. A lot of times, unfortunately, growth is learned through failure. And, I think our team did that. But, we tried to cover as much as we could, like we would in any other year. Nothing really had changed. I didn't want to put too much on our team. We've got a lot of new guys to college basketball that we can't force feed too much.
Before the suspension, we asked you what you were going to do. You're like, I don't know. I've never been through this. What did you do? Did you drive the carpool some? Obviously, watch the Michigan State game.
Yeah, I worked out at Planet Fitness a lot over on Westport Road. Those are my peeps. I took the kids to school. I picked them up. That's about it.
Chris, what kind of difference did you notice in your team on the defensive end and rebounding in the Bahamas versus the first 4 games?
Well, that's the first thing that stuck out. Is just, our nastiness on the glass in the Bahamas. I think that, our team's always wanted to be a team that surrounds the ball a little bit like gang tackling, keeps the ball out of the lane. I thought while it wasn't perfect, it improved. The awareness off the ball got better. Our stances were maintained longer. We still have a ways to go, and what you've done on Thursday and Saturday of last week doesn't mean that you're going to do it on Wednesday. It's got to be a habit. It's got to be important, and that's our job to continue to make sure our players understand that.
And Dre said one thing you mentioned was the pace was a takeaway for you between Navy and Maryland, that it slowed down a bit. Do you want to pick back up, or where do you want that?
Yeah, I think that, our guys have to understand that, pace is their effort. In the effort in sprinting the ball up the floor, sprinting without the ball up the floor. And, we measure that. And, statistically, it was cut in half from the Navy game to the Maryland game. Again, 2-day turnaround or 1-day turnaround, but, hey, regardless, we're playing 10, 11 players. Those guys got to move up the floor. And with that comes a greater responsibility of not being casual with the ball, which some of our players still don't understand. And hopefully, over time, as we get used to our system and used to playing with that pace, we make better decisions that aren't rushed, that aren't casual, that aren't sloppy. A few of our guys have a ways to go, and if they continue to make those type of decisions, they're not going to play as much.
Michigan State 3 years ago was really your first big win as the coach here. It was top 10 overtime win. All these Izzo teams have a similar, fingerprint, but, what's different about them now? What did you see doing the scout on your own?
Michigan State is just they're a team with a true identity. Every year, no matter who their players are, that they're going to play extremely fast, whether it's a missed or made shot by the opponent. They're going to race the ball up the floor and down your neck if you don't get back. That's the first thing you have to do is contend with their pace. The second thing, he's going to run 1,000 plays. If we cover 900 of them, we're going to miss 100 of them, and so those are the ones he's going to run. But there's concepts within those plays, right? There's duck-ins, there's screen-the-screeners. There's just a lot of different concepts that our players have to understand, regardless of how they come down and what alignment and how they try to get into those things. But when the shot goes up, that's when you're going to, either lose or win against Michigan State. And, it's why he's practiced in shoulder pads before. It's why war rebounding has come from East Lansing and has spread to 1,000 different programs around the country. And so, when you play him, you got to get back, and you can't give him second and third shots. It's easier said than done, but that's the charge for Wednesday night.
Chris, the last 3 games, Dre has played at a different level. Watching from afar, what did you see the first couple games from him, and what's been different?
I think with anybody, if you focus on playing as hard as you possibly can on the defensive end, sometimes you get lost in a good way on offense. Things just sort of fall into your lap. But I think he's made a concerted effort, to really go to the offensive glass, to use his body around the rim. He's a tough matchup. Like he's more of a 4 in terms of his physicality than he is a 3, but he's always guarded by 3s. And when he starts hitting shots a little bit more consistently, he's going to be a really, really a tough offensive cover for other teams. And the way we run a lot of the actions that we run, he's going to get open looks. And I think by and large, Dre's taking good shots. And if he does that, then his percentage will go up over time from 3.
Is there a wrinkle that was added while you were away that you really liked, that you want to embrace or expand on?
No, I mean, I think Mike did a great job, but I don't know if there were any wrinkles. Some of the set plays that we put in, really contingent on how defenses cover certain actions that we run. So I thought there were some really good actions that we put in. Malik got a little short roll, touch finish in the middle of the lane against Maryland, a big possession down the stretch. That was an action that, coaches had put in probably a few hours before the game based on Maryland's coverage. So, again, one of the reasons I hired Ross is he has a great eye for the game and understanding of who's going to help where and what we need to take advantage of.
Chris, Malik looked a lot more like himself the last 2 games as opposed to the first 4. Did you notice a big difference in maybe why he played a little bit better?
I think he gave better effort. It's elementary, but it's true. I think that so often in the first 4 games he sat behind the post player very lazily. And, I thought against Mississippi State, who had a horse in there, obviously Qudus Wahab is a guy that is big, and he's going to have that same challenge on Wednesday night with Bingham, and then when they bring Marble in the game. So, you can't sit behind. You got to be able to front. You got to fight the front. That's how we want to keep the ball out of the post. He does what we need him to do on the glass. I think he can get even better in ball screen defenses. He's really smart, but sometimes he uses that smart like, well, I don't need to expend there, and he's got to use his arms a little bit more and make the guard bounce out a little bit, which he's more than capable of. And I think he's getting in better condition. The more games he plays, the more rust gets knocked off. Offensively, he's made some good decisions. He's got to be stronger with the ball and make even better decisions and finish around the rim. And when he adds that, and I think he's an all-ACC type player for us.
Staying with the bigs, Roosevelt Wheeler seems like a guy who kind of took advantage of his minutes in these games. Are you impressed with what he's shown you just as a freshman?
Yeah, I said in the exhibition season, when he wasn't maybe playing a ton, that he has the best combination of hands and athleticism and size of all of our bigs. That includes Malik. But he's really inexperienced, and he came in very immature. And so, I think that the 3 weeks I was gone, he made a quantum leap to the point where Mike felt really comfortable putting him in. He still makes mistakes, but, he's a freshman. But he's a big freshman, and he does things that, some of our other bigs aren't doing. He rebounds in traffic. It's a great thing. If you have to teach a guy how to rebound, he generally can't rebound. And Rose can rebound.
What did you think about the job that Big East did in terms of player rotations and managing this deep team?
Well, it's hard. I'm not going to be a critic with that. I'm not sitting on the bench and knowing necessarily who's given an attitude. Who maybe is more tired than normal. Maybe what matchup they don't like. Sometimes you take a guy out at the 2 because you feel like, the 3 needs to be guarding there too, and so that changes not necessarily that position, but other positions. So, 5-1 is 5-1, and had we have been a little bit better at the end of the game against Furman, we'd be 6-0, and you can always complain about margin of score or what you could have done differently, but that's BS unless you sit in that chair.
Dre said one of the words that he had missed during your absence was conversely. Do you use that a lot? And can you give us an example?
Who?
Dre.
Dre. That's good. I don't know if Dre knows what it means. Well, Dre knows what it means. I don't know if every guy on the team knows what it means. But it's good to know they got Coach Mack's imitations down. Thanks.